What if I told you laziness could be your greatest strength? Ryan was the laziest boy in the village, until the day his father fell ill. With their crops dying and hope fading, he faced a choice: remain powerless or transform his weakness into victory. The king's golden chest competition seemed impossible, but Ryan had a secret weapon. Every morning at sunrise, Ryan dragged himself to the rice fields with his bamboo pole. His job was simple: wave it to scare away birds, but he found ways to do less. He tied strips of cloth to the pole so it flapped in the wind, letting him nap under the trees. His father noticed the untouched lunch basket still full at midday, and the way Ryan's footprints barely disturbed the mud between naps. The village women chuckled when they passed him, calling him Sleeping Tiger and Cloud Watcher. Children mimicked his slow walk, dragging their feet through the dust. At the well, men placed bets on how many days his makeshift scarecrow would last before falling apart. But what they didn't see were the notes Ryan made in the dirt: diagrams of pulley systems, calculations about wind direction. When his father's sickle broke, Ryan spent an afternoon reshaping the blade to cut cleaner with less force. As summer deepened, the river shrank to a trickle. Cracks appeared in the earth like hungry mouths waiting for rain. Ryan's father coughed through the nights, his skin growing tighter over his bones. One evening, the old man pressed a shriveled rice stalk into Ryan's palm. The grains inside were hollow, as dry as sand. That night, fireflies blinked around Ryan's hammock while he stared at the stars. The villagers' laughter still rang in his ears, but now it mixed with the sound of his father's labored breathing from the hut. By the next full moon, Ryan had rebuilt the irrigation gate 3 times. His first attempt used crooked branches that jammed after one day. The second worked better but required constant adjustment. The villagers shook their heads when they saw him sitting cross-legged by the channel, staring at the water flow instead of turning the wheel. But on the 7th day, he unveiled his solution: counterweights made from mud-filled baskets that automatically balanced the gate as water levels changed. The morning the last spring dried up, Ryan woke to silence. No birds needed scaring from fields that could no longer feed them. His father's breathing had grown shallower in the night. Ryan knelt by their storage jars, counting handfuls of rice that wouldn't last the month. In the dust by the doorway, he drew one last diagram, not of tools or traps, but of a path leading up the mountain toward the King's Road. The villagers would soon learn that what they called laziness was really patience gathering its strength. The drumbeats started before dawn. A soldier on horseback rode through the village square, his armor gleaming in the first light. He unrolled a scroll and read the king's decree: 3 days to reach the palace, 3 tests of worthiness, and a golden chest for the victor. The crowd murmured. That chest could buy a year's rice harvest, enough medicine for a dozen sick elders. Ryan felt the weight of his father's feverish hand on his shoulder, heard the whisper, "Go." Laughter rippled through the crowd as Ryan stepped forward. The blacksmith's son flexed his arms, already strategizing how to carry the chest home. A hunter checked his boots, confident in his endurance. No one noticed Ryan slipping a coil of rope into his pouch, or the way he tested the edge of his small knife against his thumb. At sunrise the next morning, 30 competitors gathered at the old bridge. The soldier gave them each a copper token and 3 rules. Lose the token, lose the challenge. Help another competitor, lose the challenge. Fail to arrive in 3 days, lose the challenge. The hunter smirked at Ryan's thin arms. "You should have brought a pillow instead of that knife," he said. Ryan kept walking when others ran. The hunter and blacksmith's son soon disappeared ahead, kicking up dust on the mountain path. By midday, Ryan had counted 14 different edible plants along the trail, noted 3 sources of fresh water, and gathered 4 straight branches of flexible ash wood. When he reached the first checkpoint, a cliff overlooking a vast lake, the others were already stretching, preparing to swim. The lake stretched for miles, broken only by 3 small islands where competitors could rest. Currents swirled visibly between them, and on the far shore, a thin column of smoke marked the next checkpoint. The strongest swimmers stripped to their underclothes, rubbing oil on their muscles. Ryan turned his back on the water and walked into the forest. Beneath the trees, he worked quickly. His knife stripped bark from the ash branches as the rope wove them together. The sound of the starting horn carried through the trees, followed by splashes and distant shouts. Ryan tested each knot twice. By the time he returned to the shore dragging his creation, the fastest swimmers, were halfway to the first island. Villagers watching from boats pointed as Ryan pushed his bundle into the water, 4 lashed branches with his robe stretched between them. He stepped onto the makeshift raft just as the first swimmer began struggling against the current. The hunter, surprisingly, was already falling behind, his powerful strokes no match for the lake's hidden eddies. Ryan knelt on his raft, using one of the extra branches to paddle steadily. He didn't race, he didn't hurry. He simply moved forward while others tired themselves fighting the water. By sunset, 7 competitors had turned back. 3 more clung to the second island, too exhausted to continue. Ryan floated past them, his raft barely making a ripple. The last stretch of water was the calmest. As his raft scraped onto the far shore, the judge nodded soberly. Ryan was the third to arrive, but the only one who wasn't gasping for air. The blacksmith's son lay wheezing on the ground, muscles cramping. The soldier handed Ryan a dry cloak and pointed to the path ahead. "The next test begins at dawn," he said. Ryan watched the remaining swimmers still battling the currents as he walked away, already calculating how to turn his knife and rope into tools for whatever waited tomorrow. The lake stretched out like a shimmering blue sheet under the afternoon sun. From the cliff's edge, 3 small islands dotted the water's surface, each barely bigger than a fishing boat. The currents between them swirled with unseen dangers, dragging down anything moving. Too slow. Most competitors stripped to their underclothes, rubbing animal fat on their arms to cut through the water faster. The blacksmith's son clenched his fists, his muscles ready for the swim. Ryan disappeared into the forest without a word. His knife scraped against bark as he worked, peeling vines and testing branches for flexibility. The starting horn blasted across the water just as he dragged 4 curved ash logs back to shore. Spectators in boats craned their necks as the swimmers surged forward, strong arms cutting through the waves like blades. Laughter rose when Ryan stayed behind, looping rope around the logs in intricate knots. Children pointed from the banks as he layered his tunic over the framework, creating a rough raft. By the time he pushed it into the water, the lead swimmer was halfway to the first island. Ryan stepped onto the wobbling platform, using a long branch to steer. The lake fought back immediately. Currents tugged at the raft's edges, but the ash logs rode high on the water. Up ahead, the blacksmith's son faltered, his powerful strokes no match for the hidden whirlpools near the first island. Ryan paddled methodically, angling to avoid the roughest patches. His raft moved slower than the swimmers, but it never stopped. By the second island, 5 men clung to the rocks, gulping air. Their chests heaved as Ryan floated past, his dry clothes rippling in the breeze. One man reached for his raft, but Ryan shook his head. Touching another competitor meant disqualification. The sinking sun turned the water gold as he approached the final stretch. On the far shore, judges stood beside a smoking brazier. The hunter crawled onto the bank first, vomiting lake water onto the stones. The blacksmith's son arrived next, his arms shaking too violently to stand. Ryan's raft bumped against the shore minutes later. He stepped onto dry land without a single soaked thread, handing his copper token to the stunned official. From the boats, villagers muttered in disbelief. They'd expected the strongest to win, not the boy who refused to swim. Ryan wrung water from his tunic where the waves had splashed, watching as 2 more men gave up halfway. That night by the campfire, others rubbed sore muscles and compared blisters. Ryan sat apart, whittling a new pole from driftwood. The next test would be different, but his strategy remained the same. Morning light revealed the truth of the lake's danger. Only 8 competitors remained. Bodies floated face down near the last island, kept afloat by life belts thrown by the rescue boats. Ryan studied the dead water between the islands where the currents had won. His knife made quiet strokes against wood as he planned for what came next, knowing his father's life now depended on more than just finishing third. The palace courtyard baked under the midday sun as 8 massive wooden blocks waited in a row. Each stood as tall as a man and twice as wide, their rough surfaces still smelling of fresh-cut pine. The king's advisor explained the final test in 3 sentences. Move your block 1 kilometer along the marked path. Choose 1 tool from the selection provided. First to cross the finish line wins the golden chest. Competitors surged toward the tool rack like starving men spotting bread. The blacksmith's son grabbed the heaviest pry bar, testing its weight with a grin. The hunter chose a thick coil of hemp rope, already calculating pulley angles. Others selected mallets, wedges, even a small cart for rolling. Ryan lingered at the back, fingers brushing each implement before stopping at the simplest, a palm-sized whittling knife. Laughter erupted from the spectators crowding the balconies. Women shielded giggling children's eyes as if witnessing madness. Ryan ignored them, kneeling beside his block with the knife's edge against the wood, while others heaved and groaned, straps biting into shoulders as they dragged their blocks inch by inch. Ryan's blade peeled away ribbons of pine in precise spirals. Sweat pooled in the hollow of Ryan's collarbone as the sun climbed higher. The blacksmith's son had managed 30 paces, his pry bar leaving deep gouges where he'd tried to lever the block forward. The hunter's rope system was more effective. His block moved in jerks and starts whenever he repositioned his wooden fulcrums. Ryan kept carving, his block shrinking steadily under the knife's kiss. After 40 minutes, blisters had burst on the hunter's palms. After an hour, the blacksmith's son slumped against his block, muscles trembling with exhaustion. Ryan wiped wood dust from his forehead and stood back. Where others saw an immovable obstacle, Ryan had revealed the shape hidden within. A perfect sphere sat where the angular block once stood, its surface smooth as river stone. The crowd's murmurs died as Ryan placed both hands on the sphere's upper curve. One firm push sent it rolling forward with surprising speed. It gained momentum on the slight downhill slope, requiring only occasional guidance when the path curved. The hunter looked up from his fraying ropes just in time to see Ryan's creation sail past, already covering ground that had taken others hours to cross. By the time Ryan's sphere bumped against the finish line marker, the king had descended from his balcony. Servants strained to lift the heavy golden chest onto a presentation table, its hinges gleaming. The blacksmith's son sat slumped halfway along the course, his block barely a quarter of the distance covered. Only then did the villagers understand. None of them had failed the test. The test had failed to measure what truly mattered. Ryan caught his breath as the king's shadow fell across him. His knife, now dulled from hours of work, lay discarded near the finish line. The sphere had rolled so true it barely needed steering once set in motion. This was the lesson his father had tried to teach him in the rice fields. That struggle alone means nothing unless directed by vision. The king lifted Ryan's hand without mocking the calluses left by a tool others considered worthless hours before. The wooden sphere came to rest against the finish marker with a soft thud. For 3 breaths, the courtyard stayed silent. No one had expected the lazy boy's solution to work. Then the king stood so abruptly, his carved chair toppled backward. His gold bracelets clattered as he raised both arms, declaring Ryan the victor. The same villagers who'd mocked Ryan's knife selection now pressed against the barricades, shouting his name. The blacksmith's son sat slumped by his abandoned block, staring at the delicate wood shavings still clinging to Ryan's shirt. Children who'd once imitated Ryan's lazy walk now copied the way he'd pushed the sphere, palms flat, arms moving in precise arcs. In the shadows of the royal balcony, a thin figure leaned on a walking stick. Ryan's father had begged the guards to carry him there, though the effort left him gasping. When their eyes met across the courtyard, the old man smiled, his first real smile since. The drought began. His bony fingers touched his lips, then extended toward his son in a gesture that meant more than applause. Servants struggled to lift the golden chest onto a stone table. Its weight made the wood groan, clearly more than just coins inside. When Ryan lifted the lid, sunlight flashed on parchment sealed with the king's crimson wax. The royal advisor translated for the crowd. By order of His Majesty, Ryan of the Valley is hereby appointed royal problem solver, with lodging in the palace and 10 measures of grain monthly for his household. The king stepped down from the dais, placing a calloused hand on Ryan's shoulder. "You moved what others couldn't," he said, voice carrying across the silent courtyard, "not by being strongest, but by seeing clearest." He flicked a wood curl still clinging to Ryan's sleeve. "A kingdom needs more men who think while others just strain." That evening, Ryan walked home through streets lined with torches. Villagers who'd once spit at his shadow now offered rice wine and embroidered shirts. The golden chest rode on a borrowed cart, its weight making the wheels sink into softened earth. Early rains had begun falling during the victory feast. His father waited at their hut's doorway, leaning less heavily on his stick than before. He pulled Ryan into an embrace that smelled of medicinal herbs and old sweat. "You listen," the old man whispered into his son's hair. "Most men hear mocking and believe it. You heard mocking and waited to prove it wrong." He thumped Ryan's back once, the way he used to when Ryan was small. "Laziness? No. You were always harvesting patience like hidden rice." Inside, Ryan counted the chest's contents by lamplight. Enough silver to buy back their mortgaged fields, medicines wrapped in silk, and at the very bottom, the king's personal dagger with a handle shaped like a curling wood shaving. Outside, the first real storm of the season drummed on the roof, filling the irrigation ditches his automatic gates would soon distribute. At dawn, the hunter and blacksmith's son came to ask Ryan's advice about fixing a broken mill wheel. They stood awkwardly in the doorway until he invited them in, already sketching solutions in the damp earth floor. The king's letter lay open on the table, its wax seal catching the morning light, not an ending, but the first knot in a longer rope. Ryan's victory wasn't just luck. Science explains why his approach succeeded. Brain scans of exceptional problem solvers show their prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for planning, lights up brighter than most. When others rushed to drag their blocks, Ryan's brain prioritized analyzing the problem first. This hesitation wasn't laziness. Modern neuroscientists call it strategic delay. Research reveals creative solutions emerge when the brain has time to link seemingly unrelated ideas. Ryan carving his block activated multiple neural networks simultaneously, his motor cortex handling the knife work, while his parietal lobe calculated angles and his frontal lobe projected outcomes. The physical laborers only engaged their motor pathways. Studies comparing thinkers like Ryan to traditional workers show a 68% increase in brain activity during complex problem-solving tasks. The king unknowingly recognized another scientific principle: cognitive flexibility. While muscle-powered competitors stubbornly repeated the same straining techniques, Ryan adapted his approach based on the materials available. Brain imaging studies confirm flexible thinkers have stronger connections between their prefrontal cortex and hippocampus, allowing them to access stored knowledge more efficiently. What villagers mistook for laziness mirrored energy conservation strategies found in nature. Like cheetahs resting between hunts or trees dropping leaves in drought, Ryan conserved mental energy until absolutely needed. Neurologists studying decision-making find the brain naturally defaults to energy-efficient modes. What we call laziness is often the nervous system prioritizing critical functions. Ryan intuitively understood this, saving his focus for moments that truly mattered. Motivation played a key role. When Ryan's father fell ill, his brain released dopamine and norepinephrine chemicals that sharpen attention. Brain scans of people facing high-stakes challenges show these neurotransmitters activate dormant neural pathways. The villager's mockery couldn't reach him then. His brain had entered a focused state neuroscientists call hyperrationality, where emotion takes a backseat to solutions. Ryan's raft building demonstrated another phenomenon: divergent thinking. Where others saw only trees, his brain rapidly generated multiple uses for branches: structural support, flotation, directional control. Research at Stanford University shows divergent thinkers utilize both brain hemispheres simultaneously, unlike linear thinkers who primarily use their left hemisphere. The wooden sphere revealed Ryan's grasp of embodied cognition. understanding how objects interact in space. His hands shaping the block engaged his somatosensory cortex differently than the competitors straining against resistance. Studies show craftsmen's brains develop enhanced spatial mapping regions after years of meticulous work. Ryan's laziness in the fields had secretly strengthened these neural pathways through constant observation of natural systems. Finally, Ryan's story proves motivation reshapes brains. Chronic stress from his father's illness strengthened neural connections related to creative problem-solving, as his brain adapted to survive. Neuroscientists call this stress-induced neuroplasticity, when challenges rewire the brain for better performance. The King's competition didn't create Ryan's genius. It revealed what was already there, hidden beneath the label of laziness, waiting for the right conditions to shine. Modern workplaces increasingly value Ryan's cognitive style. Tech companies now seek employees with high cognitive flexibility indices over raw physical stamina. Schools teach design thinking methods echoing Ryan's approach to the lake crossing. The science confirms what the villagers learned. Sometimes the best way forward isn't pushing harder, but thinking differently. Your brain already has this capacity. Like Ryan, you might just need the right challenge to reveal it. Life throws obstacles at everyone, though yours may not involve wooden blocks or royal contests. The next time frustration mounts, pause. Ask yourself whether you're exhausting energy or applying insight. Ryan proved that a simple blade, paired with vision, can change everything. Start tomorrow by examining one repetitive task, maybe commuting or meal prep, and brainstorm one way to optimize it. Observation precedes transformation. Before tackling problems, study their patterns like Ryan analyzed the lake's currents. Most people plunge into solutions blindly. Keep a pocket notebook to record moments when patience yielded better results than haste. These observations become your personal playbook of smarter approaches. Your version of Ryan's knife might be a spreadsheet formula, a well-timed question, or simply waiting an extra day before responding to a difficult email. Spotting brute force efforts around you provides valuable clues. When coworkers push harder on failing strategies or family members repeat ineffective arguments, those moments highlight alternative paths begging to be taken. Ryan didn't innovate in isolation. He saw others struggling conventionally and realized there must be another way. Track instances where delaying action improved outcomes. Perhaps letting a disagreement settle overnight resolved it better than immediate confrontation. Maybe postponing a purchase revealed better options. These aren't coincidences. They're proofs of your developing strategic intelligence. Like Ryan conserving energy until the competition, you're learning when to engage and when to observe. Redirection beats avoidance. Ryan didn't skip work. He redesigned it. Apply this to frustrating chores. Washing dishes feels endless? Calculate exactly how stacking sequence affects cleaning time. Hate grocery trips? Map your supermarket's layout to create the most efficient route. These small wins train your brain to spot optimization opportunities instinctively. Your mind harbors unused potential waiting for the right trigger. That mental resistance you call laziness might be your cognitive systems preserving energy for worthy challenges. Notice when sudden inspiration strikes, often during showers or walks, when your brain finally connects ideas it's been quietly processing. Carry your equivalent of Ryan's knife daily. For some, it's a meditation practice that clears mental fog. For others, a 10-minute brainstorming session before tasks. Whatever sharpens your problem-solving becomes your most valuable tool. Start small, but start today. Pick one recurring frustration and approach it like Ryan would, not with more effort, but with fresh perspective. The grocery list you always forget becomes a permanent note on your fridge. The chaotic closet needs not more organizing attempts, but one ruthless elimination of rarely worn items. Real change follows awareness. Each optimized task builds neural pathways favoring efficiency over strain. Soon you'll instinctively approach obstacles differently, measuring twice before cutting, checking wind direction before sailing, reading instructions before assembling. What others call laziness becomes your strategic advantage. Ryan's villagers laughed until results spoke louder. Your ordinary days prepare you for extraordinary challenges. The same mental muscles Ryan flexed during the competition develop through daily practice, not through lectures, but through continuously choosing the thoughtful approach over the obvious one. One adjusted habit today plants the seed for breakthrough solutions tomorrow. Keep your knife sharp. Ryan moved differently after his father took ill. Where before he ambled, now his steps had purpose. The villagers still saw the same lazy boy, but inside something had shifted. His father's rasping breath at night became a constant reminder. There would be no second chances. Purpose changes people in ways willpower never could. Neuroscientists call this the goal activation effect. When people connect actions to deep personal meaning, their brains reallocate resources. Parts normally dormant light up with activity. For Ryan, securing that golden chest wasn't about pride. It was medicine for his father, food for winter, a future where his family didn't starve. His so-called laziness became strategic energy conservation, saving mental reserves for critical thinking when it mattered most. Ask yourself, what's your golden chest? Not vague aspirations like be successful, but concrete stakes that make discomfort worthwhile. Perhaps it's providing your child opportunities you never had. Maybe it's proving to yourself that failure doesn't define you. Write it plainly where you'll see it daily. On your mirror, phone lock screen, above your workspace. Ryan didn't need motivational slogans. He had the sound of his father coughing through thin hut walls. Deep motivation reshapes perceived flaws into unrecognized strengths. Chronic procrastinators often show exceptional pattern recognition. Their brains resist busy work while excelling at identifying optimal timing. Daydreamers frequently possess rich inner worlds that generate innovative solutions. Ryan's villagers mocked his tendency to sit staring at irrigation channels, not realizing he was mapping water flow patterns that would later save their crops. Crisis forces honesty. When Ryan counted their dwindling rice stores, pretense fell away. Comforting lies like, maybe it'll rain tomorrow, stopped mattering. This mirrors how addiction programs use hitting bottom as a turning point, when avoiding discomfort becomes more painful than changing. Your brain resists disruption until the cost of staying the same grows unbearable. Start small but specific. Choose one non-negotiable, perhaps waking 30 minutes earlier to work on a skill, or saving a set amount each week toward a goal. Tie it directly to your golden chest. When fatigue whispers excuses, remember Ryan carving his block hour after hour, fingers blistering, surrounded by skeptics. He didn't push through with brute willpower. He kept seeing his father's face. Purpose doesn't erase limitations. It routes around them. Ryan never became physically strong, but he invented tools minimizing that weakness. Modern workplaces increasingly value this adaptive approach. Tech developers build apps compensating for forgetfulness, turning a flaw into a solution others will pay for. Your apparent shortcomings might be untapped niches waiting for creative solutions. Notice when emotions betray deeper priorities. Frustration at wasted time often signals undervalued potential. Envy toward others' achievements reveals unmet aspirations. Ryan's irritation at inefficient farm tools exposed his natural problem-solving instincts. These emotional signposts point toward what your brain considers truly meaningful, your hidden golden chests. True motivation endures because it's not about feeling pumped up. It's about connecting small acts to larger meaning. Ryan didn't enjoy chiseling that block hour after hour, but each stroke carried his father one step further from starvation. Your most powerful why won't eliminate struggle. It will simply make the struggle mean something. That's enough to change everything. The villagers called Ryan lazy because they only saw him resting under the trees. They didn't notice how his eyes tracked the path of falling leaves, calculating wind patterns. This happens often. Society mistakes deep thinking for idleness. The Wright brothers faced similar accusations before their flying machine proved everyone wrong. Creative minds operate differently, conserving energy until inspiration strikes strategically. What seems like procrastination might be incubation. Like fermenting rice for wine, ideas need time developing invisibly. Ryan sat motionless while others scurried, but his quiet periods allowed connections to form. Studies reveal breakthrough insights often come during rest, when the brain's default mode Network activates. The villagers dismissed Ryan's stillness, not realizing it fueled his innovations with the irrigation gates. Your mind likely has natural rhythms modern life ignores. Some people think best at dawn, others at midnight. Track when mental clarity peaks. That's your cognitive sweet spot. Ryan worked the fields at sunrise when solutions came easily, while afternoons were for contemplation. Forcing yourself to concentrate at wrong hours wastes effort. Like choosing crops suited to your soil. Work with your brain's wiring, not against it. Tools should match thinking styles. Ryan's knife suited his meticulous nature better than heavy mallets. If detailed planning isn't your strength, don't chain yourself to complex organizers. Some minds thrive using simple note cards arranged spatially. Others need voice recordings to capture fleeting thoughts. The hunter mocked Ryan's small blade, yet it carved victory where brute force failed. Strategic partnerships matter. Ryan benefited from strong swimming villagers keeping rescue boats ready during the lake challenge. Collaborating with action-oriented people creates balance. Your brainstorming gains traction when paired with someone who executes swiftly. Like yin and yang, different approaches complete solutions when combined. Reframe how you view productivity. Ants impress with constant motion, but beavers demonstrate the power of deliberate construction. Both survive winter through different strategies. Your version of productivity might involve less visible but more impactful actions. Ryan's father finally understood. His son wasn't avoiding work, but cultivating a different kind of labor. Labels lose power when results appear. Thomas Edison's teachers called him addled before his inventions proved otherwise. The villagers' insults stopped mattering when Ryan's solutions prevented famine. People will categorize you until your creations redefine their expectations. That classification box everyone tries to put you in wasn't made for your dimensions. Start noticing inefficient systems around you. The wheel wasn't invented through harder pulling, but by observing friction patterns. Like Ryan counting steps between irrigation channels, track where effort gets wasted in your routines. Small adjustments compound, shaving minutes off repetitive tasks frees hours for meaningful work. Ultimately, your mind governs its own territory. Ryan's kingdom was problem-solving, his throne a wooden stump where he whittled ideas into being. You decide what gets attention and what waits. The world needs people who pause before pushing, who ask why before how. Society's lazy label often marks the exact spot where innovation lies buried, waiting for someone willing to dig differently. The next time someone questions your methods, remember Ryan floating past exhausted swimmers. Let results speak louder than opinions. Your brain works how it works. The trick isn't changing its nature, but learning its language and putting it to purposeful use when the moment demands. That's not laziness. That's strategy. A decade after the competition, the village bore little resemblance to its former self. Farmers tended redesigned fields where water flowed through Ryan's automated gate systems. Their yields tripled with less labor. Children played a new game called Sphere, racing to transform clay blocks into rolling shapes fastest. The golden chest coins had long been spent on medicine and seed, but Ryan's methods became the village's true inheritance. His father regained strength slowly, his hands steady again, as he helped design tools for neighboring farms. Together they crafted a scaled-down version of the king's test, miniature lakes and wooden blocks, to teach creative problem-solving. Villagers who once mocked now paid in eggs and firewood for their children to attend these lessons. The blacksmith's son became Ryan's best student, applying strategic thinking to metalwork that now demanded premium prices at market. The Lake Challenge became an autumn festival, though with important changes. Safety boats lined the course, and competitors could choose between swimming or building. Last year's winner constructed a floating platform from gourds and bamboo, crossing in half the time swimmers required. The king visited periodically, smiling as he watched children solve problems in ways his advisors never considered. Ryan's hut expanded into a workshop, where farmers brought broken tools not for repair, but reinvention. A cracked plow became an adjustable width model. A stuck mill wheel inspired a new gear system. His father often sat outside explaining concepts to visitors, how reducing friction mattered more than increasing force, why observing Nature yielded better designs than copying neighbors. The village chronicler recorded these changes, initially to document Ryan's odd behavior for amusement. Over years, notes about laziness gave way to sketches of inventions that spread across the kingdom. Some pages showed Ryan's first crude irrigation models. Others detailed his students' subsequent improvements. The book became required reading for royal apprentices. What began as survival strategy transformed community values. Young parents no longer scolded daydreaming children, instead asking what solutions they envisioned. Elders consulted Ryan about personal dilemmas, failed crops, troubled marriages, and walked away with fresh perspectives. Even the village language changed. He works like Ryan meant thinking before acting, assessing then innovating. That first wooden sphere sat in the king's hall, polished smooth by years of admiring hands. Visitors assumed it symbolized victory until Ryan corrected them. It represented potential unrecognized. The block contained the sphere always. He simply removed what hid it. This became villagers' shorthand for talent development. Finding the sphere in the block. When travelers asked how such changes took root, Ryan's father showed them the old rice fields. Channels once choked with debris now flowed cleanly, fed by his son's original automated gates, still working perfectly after 10 seasons. Nearby, children laughed while testing homemade rafts in the irrigation ditch, their designs improving yearly. The story circulated beyond the valley, carried by merchants and minstrels. In distant towns, people facing impossible challenges began asking, what would Ryan see here? Some found their own spheres hidden in life's stubborn blocks. Others simply gained patience with unconventional thinkers in their midst. Either way, the lesson spread. Brilliance often wears ordinary clothes until circumstance demands it shine. Ryan lived quietly, still solving problems daily, while across the kingdom, his greatest creation grew. The idea that how we think matters more than how fast we move. The boy once called lazy became the teacher who proved intelligence isn't about speed, but direction. Ryan's story lives on because it reflects something universal, the potential we all carry but don't always recognize. Look around at your own life. What weighs you down like those wooden blocks in the competition? Maybe it's a project at work that feels impossible, or a daily chore that sucks up too much time. The solution likely isn't working harder, but seeing differently. Start tomorrow with one small experiment. Choose a repetitive task you dislike: folding laundry, clearing email, commuting. Instead of rushing through it resentfully, pause. Could baskets sort clothes by family member automatically? Would 5 pre-written email responses cover most replies? Observe first, act second. Ryan didn't transform overnight. He adjusted gradually through observation. Keep a notebook in your pocket or phone for unexpected insights. The best ideas often arrive when you're supposedly doing nothing, showering, walking, staring out windows. Ryan's raft design came while others focused on stretching exercises. Your brain solves problems in the background when given space. Capture those flashes before they fade. Notice when others struggle conventionally. A coworker frustrated with slow software might need shortcuts they've never tried. A neighbor could save hours by grouping errands geographically. Ryan won because he spotted inefficiencies others ignored. Your perspective holds value precisely because it's yours. What seems obvious to you might revolutionize someone's workflow. The King's competition had many participants but limited prizes because most approached problems the same way. In your daily challenges, whether budgeting, parenting, or pursuing goals, victory belongs to those who think before acting. Strength fades with age, but strategic thinking compounds over time. Ryan's village learned this through crops that flourished with less labor, through tools that lasted longer with smarter designs. Your brain is like that untouched wooden block, full of unrealized shapes waiting to emerge. Sharpening it requires practice. Try this. Next time you face resistance, ask what you might remove rather than add. Simplify before intensifying. Ryan's sphere succeeded because he took wood away until movement became effortless. The villagers assumed lazy meant incapable until results proved otherwise. People might misjudge your quiet moments too. Focus on outcomes over opinions. Small wins build confidence. Organize that junk drawer optimally, negotiate one bill downward, streamline morning routines. Each success trains your brain to spot opportunities. Ryan's legacy wasn't just inventions, but a mindset shift. His village learned that brains outperform brawn when cultivated. You can replicate this starting today. Pick one area needing change, perhaps saving money or improving health. Study it first like Ryan analyzed the lake's currents. Identify pressure points. Experiment quietly. What seems like a flaw, distractibility, slow starts, tendency to question norms, might be latent strength awaiting the right challenge. Society praises busyness, but progress favors those who pause strategically. Carry your version of Ryan's knife, whether it's a notepad, timer, or simple question. Could there be a better way? The competition proved one victor could inspire many. Your breakthrough might not involve golden chests or kings, but the principle remains. Transformations begin when someone dares to approach old problems differently. That someone could be you, starting now, with whatever blocks your path waiting to become spheres. Ryan's story teaches a simple truth. Labels stick only until you prove them wrong. The boy called lazy became the man who saved his village through observation and patience. Your perceived weaknesses might be untapped strengths in disguise. That tendency to overthink could fuel creative solutions. Your distractions might reveal what truly engages your mind. Like Ryan carving a sphere from a block, transformation begins when you remove what's unnecessary rather than adding more effort. The world needs fewer people straining blindly and more thinking clearly. Start small. Tomorrow, approach one stubborn problem like Ryan would. Study it first. Act strategically. Your moment to shine comes when you decide others' opinions matter less than results. Now imagine what spheres hide in your daily blocks waiting for the right touch.